for the home team. This one's for the home team.
Welcome, Tailgate Beers. We have the distinct pleasure today, Ryan and Austin here, as usual. We have a close family member, it feels like, just to join us here at the table today and get the chance. He set out some time. He's playing tonight at Crusens, and it's Mr. Corey Smith.
Front pocket of my blue jeans, a little fire.
Thank you very much for joining us today.
Well, happy to be here. It's great because we were just hanging in here. This is the green room, so we were all hanging around. And it's just like we get to sit down and chat too.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Watching college football.
Had some
Yeah.
ping pong going. had some
ping
college
pong.
football going. Fantastic.
So the weather's just starting to turn. As you said, football's going. We saw your team, the Dogs. They played earlier today and got the big W. I'm a Buckeye.
Oh yeah,
I'm
it
a
takes
Buckeye.
all types.
It does. It does. I know you were just in Cincinnati here recently too, I watched the Buckeyes. I'm from Illinois, but I moved to Ohio for a few years and started watching the Buckeyes, and so probably don't even look at us as like not necessarily competition, but like a rivalry. Like Alabama is like a rivalry. That's
It's rare that we play each other.
Yeah.
So that's certainly unique. And when we do play each other, it's going to be really high stakes. So it's I don't know if I would consider it a rivalry quite yet, but
Yeah.
it's certainly interesting because my family, my wife's side of the family has a lot of family from Ohio, so there's a lot of Buckeyes there.
Yeah.
So that makes it kind of fun, interesting.
How many games a year do you go to?
Well, I got to go to the Clemson game last week, which was awesome. It's probably the only regular season game I'll get to go to. I don't know. We'll see what if anything changes with the calendar later in the year. But we have season tickets. So like today, my wife and kids were at the game, and yeah, it's cool. It's cool knowing they're there. Sometimes I wish I could be there, but there'll be a time somewhere on down the road where I'll get to go to every game. Maybe we'll see.
Yeah.
So as you mentioned, you're a big family man, and wife and kids are at the game today. How do you balance all of that with being on the road and being an active dad, husband?
It's a lot easier now than it used to be. Prior to COVID, it was nothing for us to do 120 dates a year, 130 dates a year, where COVID was sort of a reset for a lot of people. It certainly was for me. Plus, it kind of coincided with my kids getting older. My oldest one graduated high school. My youngest one's a senior in high school this year. So it's sort of like it's kind of a reset to in terms of lifestyle. And so these days we do about 80. Hopefully we'll get to 90 dates maybe next year. So it's not as hectic as it was, but it's easier to manage it, and it allows me to focus a little bit more, I guess.
Was that a reset, as in like for you, if you're like, man, you know what, I haven't actually not toured in a while just because COVID happened, then you're like kind of slow starting it, getting back to it, or is that
I don't know. It's probably like a midlife crisis thing, like probably just getting to the point where it's like I don't have to do things, so why am I doing things that I don't want to do?
Yeah,
right. So it's sort of like I want to go play shows that allow me to like continue growing and continue doing this. I've been doing this for 20 years, and I back in the day, when you get those big moments like where you're in front of a label executive or something, and they're like, tell me your goals for where do you see yourself in 10 years? And I would be like, shit, I hope I can just still do this. Like, this would be pretty sweet. Like, I'm traveling around the country, I get paid pretty well, I get to play music, people come out, it's like fun, and it's sort of like, be careful what you wish for, and on some way, right? Because it's hard work. It requires, it's a lot of a grind, but it's like, I love it. It's when I look ahead, like, that's what I want to keep doing because it's what I'm best at, and I hope I'm at the point in my career where I can be a little bit more selective about how to go about it.
Yeah.
nice. That's a good position to be in.
Any of your children into music or do anything musically?
Well, everybody's like been surrounded by music, so both the kids love music, and they're my older one plays guitar, and he's actually really good at it, but he's in college at Georgia. He's a sophomore at Georgia, And so that's like when he's got downtime at his apartment, he's playing his guitar and stuff. That's cool. My younger one is actually he's doing like work-based learning with school, so I have him working kind of as my assistant in the studio.
Awesome.
So he's learning to help me down there, and he's working on some piano and stuff. But he plays the drums a little bit. But I don't know that either one of them want to be like necessarily want to be musicians,
Right.
which is cool. Yeah.
Absolutely. They're all kind of pave their own path. I've got a couple kids that same thing.
Well, you can be a musician without being doing it for a career. Most musicians don't do it for a career, and there's certainly nothing wrong with that. It's supposed to be about just something that it's a pastime. It's something that can you share it with other people. It brings people together. It's always cool when there's somebody in the room that plays the guitar or something and can pick some stuff out. That's what it's all about.
What's been a big thing in the last year as far as like your career that you would say was a big moment, or something that you're like, hey man, this is me energized again, or something where you're like still I don't know, excited about, or what's coming up that you kind of have excitement for?
The thing that I loved the most about music, like because there's a lot to touring from. There's singing, there's playing guitar, there's the live performance aspect of it, and then there's the recording aspect of it. But ultimately, the songwriting aspect is where it all started for me. And ultimately, I don't have a choice but to write. So coming out of COVID, just kind of going, you know what, I'm going to write some songs. And at that time I hadn't really written a lot with other people. So I kind of dove headfirst into co-writing with a lot of different people in Nashville. And that's what led to the record that came out in the fall.
So that was new. The co-writing was something that you hadn't entertained a ton.
Yeah.
You started writing songs, started playing music, started to love the music, ended up going to UGA yourself, got a degree in education, became a teacher.
Yeah.
And you were a teacher for a handful of years, social studies, teaching students, and then kind of got that bug again.
Yeah, I mean, it never went away. I just sort of prioritized. Music wasn't the highest priority. Being able to have a stable career for the family, and I loved education because it was a way to kind of give back. And I'd had a lot of teachers that have made a huge difference in my life. So I prioritized those things ahead of music, but I kept playing music just as a passion. The cool thing about education is that's always there. I like to think that at a certain point in my life, I can go back into that world. But as long as I'm able to go out and perform and keep finding joy in this, I feel like that's the direction I'm supposed to go.
Yeah, and I've heard stories that you had some students that would show up sometimes at your shows, and they'd sneak in the back and whatnot. That'd have to be a blast, just to kind of look out in the crowd and see.
No, it wasn't a blast. It was horrifying. Right? It's like, oh my God, like this can't happen. Like, what are you doing here? Like, surely that's not a beer in your? Oh no.
If you were to go back and teach, would you go back and do social studies?
Well, I was fortunate in the 4 years that I taught school. I went from teaching like geography to world history. I had a guitar class and a philosophy class. So I loved the social studies, and in particular, my degree was in broad-field social studies. So it allowed me to pick a lot of areas of interest and kind of go at them. So I got to take classes in macroeconomics, money and banking. I studied the Renaissance and Reformation. I went to Europe and did like a study abroad on the philosophy of the Enlightenment. So it's just, I took psychology and anthropology. So it's just a hodgepodge of all these different things that I feel like as a writer, they've helped me out a lot. It's a lot of different ways of, lenses to put on to look at the world.
So from a music standpoint, so I know you're a family member here at Crusens, and I've played Tailgate N Tallboys, and hopefully we get a chance to talk a little bit about that too. But somebody come in tonight here at Crusens, Central Illinois, what can they expect to see at a Corey Smith show?
I hope they see something like a fingerprint, right? Like something they're not going to see anywhere else. People like, what makes such and such artists different? What makes an artist successful? It's like, who knows? I mean, ultimately, I think people can sense authenticity, and art is supposed to be it's supposed to be unique. Everybody's unique, and we all have unique experiences in the world, and we take them in. And as an artist, it's my job to mix those things up and express them somehow, and hope that other people, can receive the messages and it makes sense. And it should be unique, like a fingerprint, because I'm unique, And so I hope that that's what comes through on the stage and through the records. It's something, you got to be here to experience it.
Will you ever do another live album like your what was it? Was it Chattanooga?
Live in Chattanooga. I've done a few live albums. Yeah, I've done live stuff at
I love that.
Theater.
I love that album.
What I'm like excited about now is looking forward to whatever the next project will be. Is I look at it as a chance to make a studio record that feels more like a live record. I still think the big challenge is how to create a record that really captures what we do on stage most nights. That is spontaneous, and it's not all laid out to the grid and like you put your parts here and it's all nice. And I want to capture really great live performances in a studio environment for the next project. So I'm kind of focused on that.
That'd be awesome. I just love live music. So yours was one that was, I'm a little bit younger than you, but I was in high school when that kind of came out. So the whole 21, song and all that stuff being live. That album I just remember playing a lot, and that was a good one. Only because it's so real, because it's live and the crowd interaction. And
yeah, it was so cool working on the record after it was recorded, because you could hear the energy in the mics, and those live records, sonically they leave some stuff to be desired, but they capture the energy. You can hear it's like it's chaos, and it's cool. I think that I did one outtakes from the Georgia Theater years and years ago, and we actually did 2 nights at the Georgia Theater, and there was a truck there to get the audio. But at that point, man, I was so green, like I was still just nervous as shit every time I got on stage. And so out of the 2 nights, we were able to salvage, a handful of songs that we ended up putting on that outtakes record.
It'd be tough trying to capture it and be happy as an artist, being like, yeah, just go ahead and cut all this,
Oh yeah. Oh, nowadays that never would have passed.
Nowadays everything.
Yeah. The key to the live stuff now is always record them. Just always approach it. To me, there's something about being in the studio, and it's like, okay, normally you're recording to a click, and it's like once record gets pressed, everything, it's like tense. Like, okay, got to play it perfect now, and fuck that. That's a hard way to make. I don't want to do it that way anymore. It's like I
agree, it'd be hard.
Yeah.
So you mentioned you've been in the industry for 20-some years, over 20 years, and what have you seen changed, even from a social media perspective? I know you were on MySpace years ago and kind of went all the way through the spectrum of that. And now, we've had the chance to talk to a lot of younger folks, artists that are coming up and have that TikTok type of exposure. What has been your experience or your thoughts on today's industry?
There definitely was a pivotal shift, in the early 2000s when I was just sort of getting started. You had iTunes come along with the 99-cent single, and you had the LimeWire and Napster, and you had the file sharing, and then MySpace being like the social media hub that kind of connected this. So there was definitely a transformation. And back in those days, I read this book called The Future of the Music Business, and it's a really short book, which are my favorite kind of books.
Big text,
yeah.
Pictures, lots of pictures.
But the dude, they're basically telling the future. Back then, they're like, look, the CD's dead, right? It's an overpriced piece of junk at this point. And it's on its way out. Eventually, people are going to pay music subscriptions. They're going to pay a music bill just like they pay a water bill or a power bill. And it's like, what? And they're like, in the future of music, there's going to be basically a middle class. Right now, the for so long, the majors, not just the majors, but the system itself, it's like the access to the marketplace was controlled. Consumers had fewer choices. There were fewer outlets there. So iTunes sort of changed all that. Social media made it where people could go like discover shit on their own. MySpace certainly did. That's what helped me is I was putting music on MySpace, and just organically it was getting millions of streams on there, so it was showing up on the charts. So when people searched country music, they saw my name pop up right next to Kenny Chesney's. Completely organic, it's nuts.
But that's how I feel like when I listen to people be like, oh my gosh, these TikTok artists or whoever, and I'm like, you got found on YouTube. Yours, not you, but like the person, I'm like, it was no different. YouTube was the same platform that you got found that way. And maybe before all of the internet, it was, you were handing out CDs and just so happened to know somebody and it got somebody. But either way, people are using their tool. And we've had this conversation with a couple of people. You still got to prove it. Whether you get found on TikTok, on the side of the road, something like that, it's just a way to get your stuff out there. But it's a flooding of information of artists every single day to catch somebody's attention because there's so much of it out there.
Yeah, now I think that whether it was MySpace or eventually like Facebook just came and annihilated MySpace like almost overnight, like every or Instagram or YouTube or TikTok or whatever. Those things are always gonna come and go, and they're gonna be a way for new artists to get discovered. The trick is though, they're still the old the higher you the faster you rise, the faster you fall or whatever, so it's like, how do you turn that into a long journey? Because being an artist is a long journey. It should be a lifelong journey, and I've been very blessed that despite all these ebbs and flows, that I'm going to be at Crusens on a Saturday night and have a room full of people and get to go up there with my friends and do something that we love. And, I've had the privilege of doing now for like almost 20 years. So whatever the technology is, it's good. Let's figure out, how to keep it going.
Who are some artists out there right now? Because you and I have had this discussion last time you were here, and I know that you have opinions of how the music industry is going, no different than I have them, and we have different things. But what artists out there right now do you see? They're like, man, this person or a gal is doing it very right, and you're a fan of right now.
Well, I have a lot of music that I'm a fan of, and I kind of separate that from that business kind of bullshit, because when it comes to the business stuff or guessing what people are gonna dig, like shit, who knows?
Who knows?
Yeah. So typically, I'll listen to stuff that my kids send me, and I'll be like, oh, that's cool. Like my oldest one turned me on to this Pony Bradshaw, who is from I think he's from Mississippi, but he lives in North Georgia. Really been digging into that lately, and they also turned me on to that. Stephen Wilson Jr.
Yeah,
I've been
really good.
digging some of that stuff a lot. I'm a big Jason Isbell fan. I like the Wood Brothers a lot. I don't know but I go through phases where I hardly listen to music at all. I've been in a big Dead and Company phase lately, because they're it's so jammy. I kind of like it now because I don't have to sit there and dissect every little word, and I can just kind of
the jam band side of things.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I started doing this thing in the house. I call it the Dead Spa, and so I'll put on I started listening to, with these Dead and Company live records. Spa? Yeah. Okay. I'll go sit in the pool or turn on the hot tub and make myself a cocktail or whatever and chill out and listen to a whole live Dead and Company. And I even went back and I started listening to some of the old original Grateful Dead stuff from the 70s and the Europe album.
Yeah.
It's cool. I'm all by myself, and I'm sure my neighbors are like, what the fuck's going on over at
I don't even know if I've ever listened to them.
Yeah. Oh, it's super chill.
Oh yeah,
yeah. It's super chill.
Oh yeah,
I know.
John Mayer's he's in it as well.
Yeah. Oh, this is the John Mayer combination with them. I know what this is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's cool.
That's some great. I mean, all those, everyone that popped up was all pretty much live in Boston. I mean, those are real.
And so, what are you looking on YouTube?
I go straight to Apple Music.
Okay.
Now, but for me, I use Pandora the most because I feel like I find the most variety they don't push me into if I, did Corey Smith radio, I don't feel like they funnel me towards all these other, things that they want me to listen to.
Yeah.
I do feel like it is based on my true, combination. And then I try Spotify. We have our Tailgate N Tallboys, playlist and stuff, and I'll use it for some, but I just can never get into using Spotify to mix up music.
I've used Spotify probably more than Apple Music, and I did do an A/B in the studio at the house, and on a couple of different platforms. But Spotify sounds better. It just sounds better. It's got more bottom end to it. It just comes out of the gate sounding a
that's
little
funny
better.
because I think that there's times that the volume is less on Spotify, volume, and it's quieter now. As far as bottom end and diving into the sound, some of the newer Apple ones that have their new like tones to it,
Yeah.
I mean, I thought have been better, but that was just me.
Yeah, I guess that some of and now they got the spatial audio features in the Apple Music
Love,
stuff.
I don't know
Yeah.
what it's called. I don't know what it's called, but each song has like high res lossless.
Yeah.
It's got all the different stuff on it, and Spotify does have one thing figured out, that when you're in another platform listening to music and you jump into Spotify, music shuts off.
Oh yeah.
I'm always like, man, some genius, because they're like, no, you're not gonna be listening to Apple Music and come into Spotify. It's gonna cut all the music off. But I still, to this day, I might be the only human in the world that does it. I still, to this day, will go and buy on iTunes the album, or I'll buy vinyl. I've been trying to grow my vinyl collection because I have a huge CD collection.
Yeah.
But I've been trying to get all the things I love. Everything from super hard rock.
Yeah.
Like someday my kids are going to be like, Dad has a vinyl of Motionless in White right here.
Yeah.
To stuff that I used to listen to, younger.
So you have a CD collection, and I just shit all over CDs earlier, and I was just like,
Well, I have a CD because that's from my child. That's
Yes.
my tapes and my
era.
CDs. I was a tape CD kid. Yeah. I mean, I still had all my cassette tapes. Then I went CDs, and then I lived in the Napster world and burned up burned up my
Extra
3
drives.
computers for my ex-girlfriend,
Yeah.
and, in high school.
I had this big CD book. I mean, it was massive. Like this thing.
Like the old DJ one that you like.
Yeah, like have to. Yeah, I mean, you have to worry about people using their cell phones driving. Like shit. Back then, it was like, let me get a new CD to put in.
Yeah.
Whoop, and you're flipping through. Like almost had.
Well, I got a
so many-
6 CD changer.
Yeah,
installed
let
on
me
the back.
let me load this thing up. Like
at the visor.
way more dangerous.
Got the visor one up there.
Yeah.
Up
Do you-
top.
Do you still have like a big collection of old like tapes or CDs or vinyl, or do you
Not
get any
really.
of that? No?
Now I've got a bit of a vinyl collection, but frankly, I'm not a very good collector of things. I'm doing okay at collecting guitars. I'm doing okay at that, but I'm not good at collecting. And in particular, my CDs.
I mean, I don't collect them anymore. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
I just have an entire tote sitting there. It's
Yeah.
just like Dad's CDs.
Yeah, I've probably got a few, and every time I keep this these old tapes from like back when I was in college, where I had this 4-track recorder, and I would like play with my guitar and stuff, record these old songs, and I never could part with them, It's like, and there's no telling what kind of gold is on these cassettes from back in the day when I was in, and eventually I'll break them out and like listen to them, and be like, oh my god, this is horrible.
Maybe I need to pick me up. Just
Yeah, and not only is it wasn't necessarily my best work, but it sounded like shit. Like just the tape, like tapes in general sounded like shit,
Yeah.
They taste.
we are spoiled with audio quality, what we have nowadays compared to what was.
Yeah.
Sure.
So let's go back to Tailgate N Tallboys. As Austin mentioned earlier, you're a Tailgate N Tallboys alum. You were there. What was your experience like? How did you think? I mean, this is going to be a big topic for us here in upcoming months.
Yeah, that was a fun one. That was with Riley and Jelly Roll. That was a fun one. Got on stage with Riley and Jelly during Riley's set. It was cool because we had done a bunch of dates with Riley the previous year, and we hadn't seen him in a while, so we kind of got reunited there with him and all his guys. And then Jelly Roll was there. That was my second time hanging out with him, and then we ended up having the after party and hanging out on Riley's bus. And then I don't remember much after that, except really, yeah.
You did get up on stage and sang with Jelly.
Oh yeah, it was awesome. Yeah, it was fun.
That was cool.
Yeah, it was fun. Yeah, they were Riley and Jelly were apparently like taking turns doing my old songs. You know, like doing the rap sections and stuff, and I was asleep. I think I was nodding off.
You were tired. It was a long day, right?
Man, I've never felt so old, you know. Like I used to be able to go so hard, you know, and like now could not hang with them. Yeah.
That's fun.
It was fun though. It was fun.
What things do you do? Are you a reader? What podcast do you listen to podcasts or anything like that? Or
Man, I don't much. And the only time I listen to podcasts is when I'm on a long drive. I don't really. I'm not good with technology and stuff. You know, I don't.
Really?
Yeah, like everybody in my circle of friends and family, you know, they primarily use, you know, Instagram, Facebook, whatever, Snapchat, whatever, to communicate with their friends and family, you know. And I've never been able to use it that way. Because it's always, even from back in the day, my first MySpace page, it was always something that was my art, the place for my art to get out there.
Still waiting for people to add you on MySpace.
Yeah.
There.
Yeah, no one's following me. I'm still posting all my shit on MySpace, and I'm wondering why nobody knows what's going on.
Bring carrier pigeons with you everywhere. Or like...
It's Corey and Tom still on MySpace. Corey and Tom.
Yeah, it's like, oh, when did you have a new record come out? Well, you didn't see. I put it on MySpace. No one knows anything anymore.
$1 million idea is, I mean, maybe we bring back MySpace and try to make it cool again.
Yeah.
I mean, I've said it forever that I think it'd be awesome if MySpace made a comeback.
I thought it was cool as shit. You know, when it started, it was real simple.
Yeah, super simple.
Yeah, and I was like, yeah, it took me on a ride. Like it took me on a serious ride. It's still kind of going on.
Austin would be like my 365th friend on my stack of friends. Like, that'd be Austin.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, you used to just keep posting all the videos, and I don't know, I think I had like,
Is it still there?
I don't know. I thought somebody
Can somebody check and see if I have a MySpace page?
I thought somebody said that like Justin Timberlake at one point bought MySpace, but I don't know. That could be a rumor. I did look it up and think it'd be cool to bring it back. I don't know.
Yeah.
But it probably is just gonna be us three as friends and Tom.
Yeah. Yeah, you think Tom's still?
He's still sitting there waiting, guaranteed at that desk.
But I know that you've got the show tonight, and we don't want to keep you any longer. I know my buddy Austin here has got at least one more question. He always
I don't know how Corey's going to answer this question though.
Go ahead.
But you're jumping out of an airplane. You're getting ready to spend the rest of your life on a deserted island. What 5 albums are you going to listen to the rest of your life? You can't take anything else with you.
5 albums. Okay, there's a George Jones gospel album. I can't remember what it's just like George Jones gospel. Okay. Whatever that album is, I can't remember. That one's definitely on there. That one's got to go. But yeah. I'm probably gonna go Eric Clapton Unplugged. Mm-hmm. To get that one. I got three more, right?
Yeah.
I'm gonna go. Wow.
It's a tough one. Do you go variety? Are you gonna listen to the same stuff all the time?
Yeah, I'm gonna try to mix it up a little bit. I'm probably gonna have to go with some John Mayer. Can I do a really long? Like, what if it's a 2-part album? Does that count as one album, or does that
2-part?
So I could do like John Mayer, like Where the Light Is album, and that's 2 parts. So that counts as one album.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
How do you not go John Mayer live in Los Angeles?
Yeah.
That's
the Where the Light Is. Isn't
that is?
Yeah. Yeah, that's got to go on there.
Okay.
So we got the George Jones, we got the John Mayer, the Eric Clapton Unplugged. Yep. All right, now it's getting tough.
Yeah, we have the same John Mayer. I'm sorry, you're right. Where the Light Is one of my top 5 because it's the only one where it plays In Your Atmosphere. It's the only time that song's ever been played.
Yep.
One of probably the best John Mayer songs out there.
I love that one, and I love the version of Good Love's on the Way that's on there.
Yes, it's a great album.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, I could probably round it out with John Mayer albums if but I'm not going to because
that's on your top 5.
No, I'm trying to think of something like this, just essential, because there's a whole lot of good stuff.
So for me, I started realizing that that's where I found my obsession with live albums, is when I did this. Every one that came to mind that I wanted, I realized that I was a 90s kid and that I loved live albums, because I had 3 of my top 5 were live.
I'm going to go something jazz so that I have something that's not lyrically based and that's improvisational. It's just a matter of how far out there. You know, it don't necessarily need to be too like giant steps.
Like a Yanni album?
No, I'm just thinking more like a Miles Davis kind of blue. I'm kind of torn between that or like a Coltrane, like Giant Steps. But I'm gonna go kind of blue. I'm gonna go with that one on there. So that I got that thing there.
What are you going to round it out with? What's going to be the...
I feel like need something that's got some...
Cause you got to have a real... I mean, you got a John Mayer album out there. It's got a little upbeat, but, you know... Then you got your gospel.
It needs something with some... Oh, fuck. Now it's getting...
Light came on.
Man, I fucked up because now I got to choose between the Allman Brothers or Skinnerd. Like, I fucked up. I should have left 2 spots in there. Man, I'm gonna go. There's a Leonard Skinnerd album. It's two CDs. I think it was like platinum and gold, like Skinnerd's like greatest hits.
Okay.
I'd have to go with that one. And now I might reconsider my Miles Davis and add some Allman Brothers. But
hopefully this eats at you for a while, because now you're gonna be thinking about what if I actually jump out of a plane and I have to take these albums with me?
And where the fuck is the record player gonna be?
We haven't figured that part out.
I mean, are we talking about? And if I've got this, like, why do I need? What are we talking about? I can have all music ever made. You know, since the beginning of time.
Don't worry about the details of where the shit came from, okay? You were jumping out of a plane, and you're going to be able to play these 5 things. It's going to be the old record player that has, like, the speaker, like the what is it, the trumpet-looking thing right here.
That's that shit's going to get ruined in no time.
Oh, yeah.
All the salt water. This is a pointless exercise.
Mine ended up being, like, Oasis live at Wembley, Counting Crows live in New Amsterdam. I did John Mayer live in Los Angeles. From there, I went with like a Brooks and Dunn. I did Greatest Hits only because, I mean, it is an album, but I did a Brooks and Dunn. And then my 5th one always gets really tough, but I would end up going with like a newer age, like the band Camino, or that one kind of bounces around a little bit.
Yeah.
But that's where I kind of... Then the 5th album, you're always like, but then there's this one and there's this album. So
yeah,
it's a fun conversation. But man, we appreciate you doing this and appreciate you being back here and taking the time to hang out with us, man.
Absolutely.
Appreciate you so much, man. Good luck tonight. And my beer's empty. Otherwise, I cheers you. But
cheers.
Looking forward to see you tonight. Thank you again for taking the time. Thanks your team for carving out some time with you today. So thank you.
My pleasure. Thank you.